about just how I think really confidence comes from, does my body feel safe within gravity? Can I move? We talked about those midlines last night. Can I move within all three midlines? Flexion, extension, rotation. Do I have access to my peripheral vision? Do I feel the freedom of my C1, C2, right? Can I have this sense of proprioception? I know where my body is and how it is moving, which I know it sounds like, well, doesn't everybody? Not really. It's one of those things when you dive deep into it, stress compartmentalizes us, and so it does with our bodies as well. So some of these, like the horse work for tonight, we're going to see what happens with our sense of body orientation when we have vision, and then when we turn our vision off, how does our body have to orient? Right? These are the things that are going to tell us how safe do we feel in our own bodies? How quickly can we return to a baseline of regulation? And guess what? A lot of these things that we're doing for ourselves in attunement and in masterclass, we talk about those same movement explorations for our horses. Do our horses know where their bodies are? Can they feel safely mapped to all four corners of their body through their feet? Right? I mean, these are the kinds of conversations that I hope everyone invites their friends to, because it's going to release you from the shame or from that feeling bad of what's wrong with me, because there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm going to repeat that. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with your horse. It's just that you haven't had access to these kinds of conversations, right? We Having this knowledge and understanding allows us to really be empowered, because we get to own finally the truest narrative, the truest story, which isn't what we think up here. The truest story exists here in our bodies and in the language of movement.
So good. Everybody drop it in the comments so you don't miss it. Nothing is wrong.
No.
I'm not here to blame or shame or shade anyone or any brand. Okay. Nothing is wrong. Everybody, I want everybody on this call to write that. And if you're on TikTok, drop it in the comments. Nothing is wrong. I want every one of us to ask, what's missing? That's a better question. What's missing?
That's
What
it.
information
Right.
am I lacking? What do I
Mhm.
not notice about myself that's the real culprit that's keeping me stuck? Nothing is wrong, but something is missing. You're simply lacking the information to make more educated choices
Mhm.
and lead to different actions and more successful results. Uh, I was listening to Beth's horse work and she brought up a good point. Well, Kendra, if it's not my fault, whose fault is it? It's nobody's fault. Nobody intentionally comes out. I truly don't believe this. We don't have Nancy Kerrigans in our sport. Like the Tanya, you remember that Nancy Kerrigan when they went after her in the Olympic skating thing? I truly don't believe we have malicious riders like that, where and loved ones. Everybody wants the best for everyone else's horse and their fellow riders, right? Do y'all believe that? Do you agree with that? But it's it's the tradition. If we're going to blame anyone or anything, just blame the tradition. We
Mhm.
don't know when or where or who or how it started. It doesn't matter. It's really not going to do us good to blame and get stuck there, is it, Leanne?
Oh no, because that's the left brain. So the left brain left to its own devices, right? The left brain is very logical and it's very linear, and it's gonna be either or. Either it's this or it's that, right? And we do need the left brain. But the right brain is not linear. The right brain isn't confined by either or. The right brain can go, this is both and. This is historically what's been passed down, right? And now I can know something different. And so the right brain is really open up to senses of possibility. The right brain opens up to context, right? And that's the part of the brain that's going to get us unstuck, if you will. And we'll go over a little bit later why sometimes I get the word stuck, but really when we're talking about in terms of trauma and stress, really it's unresolved protective patterns that haven't been allowed to be fully expressed.
Say that again, please. Rewind,
It's
repeat.
Yes, it's not so much about being stuck. It's about unresolved protective patterns that have not had the capacity to be fully expressed.
So, like we talked about last night, this,
Mhm.
that
Right.
And we'll talk about this more this week, guys, but here's a little
Yeah.
like preview. A lot of the tack and the equipment that has been made to solve the problems actually exacerbates the problem and keeps us stuck in the cycle because it keeps us stuck in those postures.
Right.
Your body
Right.
can't get away from it. Like some saddles are literally designed to enhance the grip and the fetal position. And our body still thinks and tells our
Mhm.
brain still in danger.
Right. So the fetal position, right? And so you could kind of see that when we were on that trail ride the other day with Pedro, remember when he tucked his butt under?
Sorry, this is cute.
Yeah, this is so cute.
I did not
And
have my camera running, and I wish that I had. This pretty little lady right here can ride a horse. Let me tell y'all. When you like think about regulation, there's your poster child right there because it was about to go to hell in a handbasket real quick. You tell it.
oh yeah. So he tucked his butt under and I felt it and I was like, and so my first thought is, oh shit.
Y'all know the tuck. Right when they get spooked and they kind of they grab
Yeah.
times.
And so let me tell you. So one of the first inclinations is for our body to go "Boom," like that. Right. Because that is that. So here's the thing about writing, y'all, and this is something that I have such profound respect for everyone on this call or who's going to listen to this later. We have to override our primitive reflexes of wanting to protect ourselves in order to stay safe on a horse. We just have to. Because one of the things is fear paralysis is protect your internal organs. How do you protect your internal organs? You have to go in, right? I'm okay taking a hit to the back of the head or to my back. I'm not okay taking a hit here, right? So our primitive responses is always going to outweigh our logical thinking. We have to know and have that sense of neurobiological safety and trust within ourselves and the movement pattern of our horse. And let me just reiterate that. I can only have a biological sense of safety and trust if I trust the training I have received and the training my horse and I have been through. Thankfully, I know Pedro and I know what he's capable of.
Yes, and it all happened because I wasn't thinking, she wasn't thinking. We're out on this awesome 7 mile ride.
Beautiful.
She asked for her phone. I just hand her the fanny pack, and one of these trucker caps was attached to it, and it caught him off guard because I handed
Hmm.
it on her left side. And I've ponied horses on him before. He's a ranch gelding. He's more accustomed to things on his right side. And so you could just see him about to blow. And I'm thankful, like we all are benefactors because that happened and
Right.
because it's fresh in your mind and memory bank to be able
Oh, yeah.
to people through that because the learning how to override the body's natural sense of protection takes
Ooh.
training.
It takes training, y'all. I mean, it really does because I could feel, and I did actually go into this, and I felt that body like response go "Goop," clinked down, and he felt it too, and his head raised up. And I knew that his head raising up and my body doing this was not going to be a good relational interaction to start at all. And I had to quickly override that. I took a deep breath in, I tucked my pelvis under, I lifted my sternum very quickly, and I opened up my field of vision
Yeah.
like, like that. And thankfully, right, because here's what happens when we do this, the next response to get us out of fear paralysis, and you can look up these primitive reflexes, by the way, and they're established in utero, and we have them for the rest of our lives, is from fear paralysis, we do this. We go in, and in order to get the body stuck out of contraction, the body goes like that. That's what a baby does to capture their first breath so that we can breathe. Now, here's the problem. If you're with a horse with a rein and then your body wants to do this, what do? We jerk on them. And then that's a startle reflex right there. That's the thing that's going to get incredibly dysregulated between you and your horse goes, you're not safe. And if you're not safe, I'm for sure not safe. So now I have to protect myself because the horse is a prey animal. Right. But I understood in that moment to literally open up, get my pelvis underneath myself because you practice it during the day, lift my sternum, make sure that I have access to my diaphragm being fully open. So I have access to this part of my brain because the horse can feel it because our communication happens. The relational field of resonance very simply is communication, nervous system to nervous system, right brain to right brain, right? All of this information is being communicated without words. But again, it happens through how I understand how to move my body, how I understand, right, to how to open up very quickly. But again, you have to practice this in daily life. The reason being is if you're a teacher, you know this, you don't practice a fire drill when there's a fire. There's a reason why there's a reason why we do this and we go, okay, let's practice this, right? Let's practice opening up our diaphragm. Let's practice lifting our sternum. What happens is because we allow the fascia to fully move, right? We don't constrict that, which basically constricts information. Again, tense body, tense mind. I mean, it's gonna flow, and the horse will feel that because the horse is looking for our leadership. And if they feel like that now we're in survival mode, they're going to go into survival mode too. And that means they're going to protect themselves. And he could have, like you said, he could have decided to like just check out, but he didn't. We came
Yeah,
back into sync and attunement
there is
very quickly.
that critical little moment where it's either fixing to unravel
Yep.
and be its own rodeo
Hmm.
or come back down, which he did. And it was beautiful. And you made excellent choices. And I was just super proud in that moment of both of you. Is this helping y'all?
I hope so.
Hearing four
And
people on this call.
yeah, and you
You
guys
know what
listen to, go ahead.
amazes me is that Leanna, you haven't been writing all that long either, have you?
No, it's been a year and a half.
So you come from, like, you've spent your
Yeah,
career in relational neuroscience,
right.
heavy training, in dance.
Hmm. Hmm.
You studied movement. So not
Yes,
just relational neuroscience, but as it applies to movement, like a special
correct.
interest in movement.
Yeah,
And now that you're in the horse industry helping riders piece all of this information together. It's
absolutely.
absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
And I think this is a wonderful moment to mention if you feel like you don't have a lot of experience with horses, guess what? You
Right.
can quantum leap ahead of people who've been in the saddle for decades based on your technique and your training. It's not it's not what's wrong with us guys or what's broken, it's about what has been missing. We have been missing out on understanding the brain to body connection, how the
Yes.
chain works. I also want to say this, and I've said it before, but this rung my bell and this got my attention when you and Michael were first explaining to us about the horse's neurological system and fascia and signals, and you're working on one of my nicest prospects. I mean, that was a nice mare. First rodeo I ever took her to was Cowtown in Fort Worth as a 4-year-old, and she ran a 14, just kind of
Mhm.
cruising the pattern, oozing with talent, just a superstar, a freak, a little dual ray mare, a freak. And Leanna's doing an assessment on her, and she's just checking the energy and the communication. When I say energy, don't freak out, guys. Like, it's a thing. Energy converts to horsepower, speed, communication. We all have it. We all need it. And if there's a leak somewhere or a deficit, you're just like pouring fuel in your horse, pouring money in them all the time, and it's just spilling out on the ground, not on the clock. It's not being applied to the clock. So you're asking my horse, you're checking her neural pathways from her hind legs to her brain and back again. And you are tapping a signal. You are asking her to let you know that you are working on her left hind leg. I kid y'all not. That mare knows something's going on because you can see her eyes kind of rolling around. She picks up the opposite foot and starts slapping it on the ground like there's a fly
Right.
on her because her wires were mixed up. And we just assume because they're nicer than anything we've ever had, or they are showing phenomenal talent and speed and a big stop and a soft mouth, like they're showing early talent. We just assume we've got a freak on our hands, like we've got a winner, like this one's going to be easy to make and finish. But she wasn't. She lacked some developmental, like very crucial steps in her development neurologically. And we're not talking about EPM. We're not discounting EPM. We're not saying it doesn't exist. We're saying once you understand this, if your horse has been diagnosed or you've treated them with EPM, you can come in and support them, really helping those connections fire again, just based on how you ride, how you move your body, what you know about them, and how to facilitate the communication flowing again. It's not about bitting them up. It's not about jipping them around the round pen before you step on them. It's not about wet saddle pads anymore. It's a very, I mean, that's been a go-to for road broncs for over 100 years. Wet saddle pads. But there's something that's a lot easier and a lot more effective to understand about them when you understand developmentally what they need and how you can provide it. It's what we're doing here for the riders, filling in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and kind of get into tonight's topic, because you talked about that fetal position, and it's not just barrel racers, it's anyone. When things are getting tense, everybody tends to go into that fetal position to protect our internal organs. You can't mentally override that, guys. So anybody who's trying to fix your head, that's why it's not working. They haven't addressed the body to teach you how to move differently and get unstuck or get out of that protective posture. When I did not know this, even when we lean forward, that can indicate fight or flight. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when we lean, right. So when we lean forward, right. So again, and it's not that we can't lean forward, because sometimes we want to lean in and observe something, but it's about how quickly can we come back? Because again, remember we talked about the midline that separates us front to back. And if I lean too far forward, I'm missing my back midline. And there's a lot of information that I can receive from my back. Right. So I'm wanting to receive that information, and specifically on our horse, that can actually change the amount of, is my horse going to equally load their hind end and legs? Or if I lean too far forward, do I shift their energy more towards their front end? And a horse that's too front endy, right, they're really going to be accessing their fight flight. They're going to be on that edge, because if, we have a phrase, we understand this, if you have their hind, you have their mind. And so the same thing for us. If we shift too far forward here, I've lost access to the back part of my midline, to my back. And I've got to have information that flows freely back to front, top to bottom, side to side. And understanding that allows us to have full access to our brain as well.
Does that blow your minds, everyone? Because what does every barrel racer do? We have a lot of barrel racers on this call. If you don't run barrels, tell us what you do. So name your event as we get to know everyone. Most barrel racers are forward most of the time. And it appears that's what's winning. But we haven't really tested anything else. So how much of it can be attributed from lack of education, lack of trial? And when you realize, even if you discount this, we're going to show you the data later this week, how much just ignoring that threshold, that midline, okay, the back, yours and your horses, you're just relying on 50% of your ability, not the rest back there. The simple fact that when we lean up forward on our horse, or if your saddle keeps you stuck forward and it doesn't allow you to get your pelvis under you and like sit up straight or go with the flow, When you lean up over your horse's withers, think about your withers like the tire, the front tire. Anybody remember like a tricycle tractor, 3-wheel? Old school tractor, one wheel in the front. That's like your horse's withers. When you put weight on that, you flatten that tire. And you might think you're going fast until you get in a new Kubota with 4 wheels. That makes that tricycle, that 3-wheel tractor, like an antique. That's what we're talking about. We have a new style of riding called attunement. So those of you who are interested, we're going to talk about that. Someone who does their horse work this week will win a free full ride scholarship to the 21 Days of Attunement class that starts next week. I'm learning so much through this journey, Leanna, about the biomechanics, how every little angle, every pound of pressure, every ounce of energy, the brain science of it. I understand now how I have spent most of my riding career left brain dominant.
Right.
I didn't understand how I was shooting myself in the boot. Oh, why is it so hard to stay in the top 15? God, these vet bills are expensive. Hello. I was functioning, trying to compete on the left side of my brain, and that's a step above the fight or flight. I mean, at
Right.
least that's more than I had more access to my brain than fight or flight. I was no longer in survival mode, but heavy left brain. Like I was in such a hurry. I was so competitive. I was so driven. I missed a lot. And I was
Yeah.
actually working against my own progress and didn't even know it.
Well, so right, because the left brain is going to kind of at some point put you in the push-pull. Left brain again can only come up with so many different scenarios, and the left brain goes, "Yep, I'm out of possibilities." The right brain, right? Because the right brain has direct access to the body. That's why we talk about being more right, leading with the right brain in the body and letting the left brain come in service of, because the right brain has direct access to the body, right? And the right brain is what gives us the capacity to really utilize our sense of responsiveness, our sense of adaptability. And then our bodies allow us to actually move that information through and communicate. And when there's less constriction in our body, there's less constriction between the communication between our horse and ourselves. And we have that phrase, there's nothing that's going to replace the way in which you ride. There's no therapy, there's no tools that's going to replace the way in which you ride, because how I ride through the nervous system. Go ahead
There's
and say that again, Kendra.
no paste or product that
Right.
can make up for how you ride. And even if
Yeah.
you ride great and you've already like been to the top of your sport, wonderful. What we're saying is that you're still capable of even more. Do
Yeah.
you want even more? Are you ready to go back and do it again? Back to you, Leanna. When we override that, or when we are missing out on our right
Right.
brain, what happens?
Oh goodness. When we actually when we are in the protective patterns of our body, right? When we talk about fear paralysis, or we talk about um, how we have to get out of that, right? Our bodies have to do this. We lose access to the lower parts of our diaphragm. We lose access to our pelvis having the capacity to move flexion, extension, rotation, right? And this movement here in our pelvis, right, is such a critical movement for our capacity to orient within ourselves and orient to the world around us. And I'm going to say this again, this movement here in our pelvis deeply affects how I orient to the world and how the world moves through me. And what happens is over time, and this doesn't even have to be about like horse accidents or something that happens, it's just like stress over time that's left unprocessed, or we constantly have to be in that performance part of our nervous system. We get fatigued. And so our body, as it fatigues and as the allostatic load of stress continues to increase, right, the parts of our body begin to lack differentiation, right? So how do we know we lack differentiation? It's kind of like when a child is riding a bike and you call their name and they move like this. Their whole body goes with them. That's a lack of differentiation. The body goes, nope, if one part moves, my whole body moves. That lack of differentiation means it's going to be a lot harder for my brain and my nervous system to take in information and basically send it where it needs to go. And that's a real key point. When you're riding horses, you need you have to have the capacity to be able to move body parts independently and with ease and fluidity.
I'm curious, is anybody having trouble controlling your horse? Are you having a challenge getting consistent rides with your horse? If you are a barrel racer, have you been scratching your head trying to find the perfect bit or the perfect drill to fix your horse's barrel problem? Can you understand how it really has nothing to do with what we thought it was? Like, it's not what it's presenting as. It may be presenting as a shoulder problem, but it ain't really a shoulder problem. That's the symptom. When Leanna was doing that with her hands representing our pelvis, how many of you have been beating yourself up thinking you don't ride very good? Have you been embarrassed because you get sloshed around a lot? Been there. Now, can you understand that just by being stuck either in survival mode or heavy left brain, it restricts your pelvis? Well, yeah, you're going to be like a pogo stick on the back of that horse. Of course it's going to be rough. Of course it's going to be choppy. Of course it's going to trigger a whole can of worms in your horse. The experience is not great for them either. So that's when we start getting sideways. There's not clarity, there's not confidence. It's a two-way street. If you're not having fun, I promise your horse isn't either. So it's a new way to really understand the brain to body connection and what has been missing all along. Once you know, it's so easy to change. And horses respond. They're going to respond this week. I'm looking forward to y'all giving reports just from coming to this group, this community setting, and experience what Leanna referred to as the field of resonance. That is a very real thing. If you don't believe me, look up the research to prove it. Field of resonance. It's going to rub off on you. Your brain is receiving new information. You're going to start doing different things with your body through those horsework activations. You're going to be more aware. The body's going to start to respond. And guess what? Your horses out in that barn will start to respond to the changes in you. It's so easy to get the results when you know what to change.
Right.
Who's excited for this? This is our opportunity to change the history of horsemanship. That's what we're doing. Making it easier to communicate, to ride smooth, to feel safe. And for those who want to go fast, crush your personal best records. We're doing it. Tracy, are you here? Tracy Schneider, let's talk to you. Let's get into your story.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm here. Finally got unmuted.
I got my pink hat on for you.
I love it. I love it.
Can't see you yet. Is your camera on?
Yes, got it on. Got it
All right.
on.
So just briefly tell everyone your backstory. What brought you to Stall High in the first place? Or who?
Well, Miss Wendy Ullman is the one that brought me here and brought me to you lovely ladies who have helped tremendously. Wendy and I went to school together, and I started watching her. I hadn't been going in the same circle she was going, but I was watching on Facebook and seeing what she was doing. And you've been a rock star. And so I reached out to her. I said, hey, what are you doing? And so I started watching, and this group is incredible. I mean, really supportive, and has really helped me a lot. And I think it's going to be, you're starting something that this discipline has so badly needed for a long time. I mean, I grew up on horses, and I've had two horses that have come to me in my lifetime. One was my daughter's that she high school rodeoed on. And when we got him, he was a barrel, rope horse. but he was the practice horse. And the poor guy, we couldn't even catch him. We had to just put him in a pen to catch him. And he would stand the opposite from us.
Mhm.
This horse now that I have, when he came to me, same thing. So overreactive. Just couldn't keep him quiet in the warm-up pen. I had to keep him way away. I mean, really, really, really notices high energy. And I thought it was me. I kept thinking, what am I doing wrong? You know, what am I doing wrong? And I've had him for 3 years and he's come a long way, but he's really come a long way since I've come to y'all. Really come a long way.
So let's talk about him for a minute, because I had the chance to ride him when we were at Waco. We were at WPRA finals together, and you came in early and we're in the warm-up pen. We set up some pop-ups and I get on him, and like, I want y'all to think about the Arnold Schwarzenegger of horses. Back in Arnold's day when he was like, boom. This horse was with muscle. He is a hunk. A lot of power. And I use the word tight. So he's just real tight. Like if you blow up a balloon too much and it's fixing to pop, y'all know what that feels like? That's what his body felt like. Like he was just holding his breath the whole
Explode.
time. Trigger happy. Like I know on horses like that, the slightest move that rubs them the wrong way, they may not even mean to hurt you. It is just reactive and bam, it's explosive, and they'll get out from under you. I mean, faster. You can be on the ground before you even know what happened. Has anybody ridden horses like that before? Can you relate? So I noticed he himself was in that protective posture. Just head up, had a lot of uh, muscle development, underneath, big old chest and big neck, and just kind of vibrated it under the hood, just idled a little hot. What are some things, without listing names or brands, what are some tried to help him that didn't work?
Uh, you know, I've changed feeds. Let's just say that was a big, big thing I've noticed. Of course, coming to Stall High, just learning how to communicate better with him has helped. But, I've tried different pads. I've tried saddles. I mean, I've ridden, like I said, all my life. And I went out and bought a sports saddle thinking that was going to help. Didn't do it. They never rode him in a tie down, but she wanted me to ride him in a heavier bit. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I mean, when I got him, he was one of those climbing. He would lope and his front end was coming up off the ground. And, I tried just trying to be quiet with him. And people thought I was crazy. Because when he came to me, he'd been futurity'd on and he was an open running horse. And when I got on him, my dear friend, Cindy Wheeler, we were at her house and I said, this horse feels like he's going to explode at any moment. And that's the only way I can explain him. I mean, from the first day I got him, that's how he felt. And he doesn't feel as bad, but he's got a rumble under the hood.
Yeah.
But I mean, the story. I mean, like Waco to me was the biggest win ever. I didn't win $1, but that is my win. And I'm still toting that one.
It was your turning point. So what happened? He went from that rumble and that like just rub me wrong and I'm gonna come out swinging.
Exactly.
What was your run? What did your runs been like before, and what did you experience at Waco when we made some changes?
Well, like I had hauled him to Hamilton probably 3 or 4 weeks before that, and it was a stay overnight. And he was unregulated the whole time. Stand at the end of the stall, didn't want me to touch him. just was very reactive. And of course, we were close to the arena speakers, loud, and that's where a stall was. But in Waco, it was loud too. But just, I took him out, rode him in attunement all the way away, kept him in the stalls before I took him to the warm-up pen, and just rode him in attunement all out there. And well, y'all saw how he walked up. I was so tickled for y'all to see him. Because, usually he's sideways and going all different directions, and he did awesome. So it was a win for me.
And
Big win.
Physically soften. You could see those muscles go from like his protective mode to wow.
Relaxed.
Yeah, you know what? I'm here with my mom. I love my mom. Like this is actually a pretty cool place to be. There's a lot of other horses here. I'm just thinking what he might have been thinking. And to see you walk down that corridor, that concrete hallway, and then into that little canvas chute, because those of you who have been there and competed at Waco, they kind of cut the alley in half or into thirds, and a third of the alley is your entranceway, and there's these big tarps. So to a horse, imagine they don't know what they're walking into. It can be very stressful and unsettling. So to see you walk in there and then just be patient in the holding pen, and to see him just let those muscles soften. What did your run feel like? How were your turns compared to before?
So much, that smooth, fluid. Just that smooth, quiet, not where you feel like you're not fighting them, but it was just everything was very smooth, very fluid. And even going into the pen and all of y'all were awesome, because after I made my run the first time, we came out of the pen, and of course Kendra was a rock star because she was right there with us the whole time. And when we walked by out of the pen after the run, he had an ear on her, and he kept his ear on her the whole time after he walked by her. And I thought that was so cool. So cool.
It's mutual. I have mad respect for him too. A few weeks ago, we kind of got into an emotional class.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the most emotional coaching calls we've had in Stall High history. And one of our riders was having a rough time and needed some support. And you can relate to that. I remember you going live, being vulnerable in our Facebook group, saying, if anybody needs support, if you don't feel like you're getting it,
Absolutely.
normal relationships, do you mind sharing a little bit about that? What can you say to the riders who have been feeling shame or guilt over not being able to ride their horse, and maybe not having the support they needed or the information they needed, the way they've been trying to do it?
This group is awesome. If you're needing support, help, don't hesitate to reach out. A little bit that told me a lot was I came into Waco. I hadn't done attunement yet. I'd done the half-second challenge, and I kept following. Well, when I showed up at Waco, all of y'all were so welcoming. Y'all were awesome. I entered the second day last minute, ran at like 9:30 at night, and everybody was there. Kendra was teasing me. We'll be here in my pajamas. And I'm like, no, I really don't expect y'all to. Every one of them was there. And so I just want everybody to know the support, you're going to get it here. The help, you're going to get it here. And don't hesitate to reach out, because we're here.
Have you felt mentally beat down before? Have you been
absolutely
quit? You mentioned you grew up rodeoing with Wendy. Like you're not a greenhorn. Something happened that, you know, got you on the trajectory to success. Like, I just want people who maybe they've been struggling. I want them to hear your story and know there is hope.
Oh, there is. There is.
It's not just lip service, and we're not just saying like, just breathe.
Yeah.
Suck it. Nothing wrong. Again, people mean well, but this is different. This is we call it stall higher education, myself included, learning where the deficits were, learning where my body, I mean, I thought I had it in the bag. I thought I thought I could handle the horse pretty good. Turns out I can do better.
Which is awesome. But I think the key thing here is we are all learning. And horses, I don't care what anybody says, you never stop learning. When you stop learning, I mean, you're just always, you've got to evolve and you've got to be learning all the time. That was the one thing my mom always told me as a kid. And I didn't really understand it. But I think all of us learning together is what's so awesome. You know, I mean, just having that camaraderie is awesome because I know I can text Wendy, hey, got a question. Hey, got a problem, you know, or anybody, reach out to anybody. Everybody has been so awesome. Do not hesitate. This is where you need to be. If you feel beat down, this is exactly where you need to be.
Leanna, I love that it's so transformational with different types of riders, different
Right.
levels of riders.
Yes,
When one wins, we all win. It doesn't
absolutely.
matter. Like you talked about Ashley's win. It was the year
Yeah.
before at Waco at WPRA finals, as she went from being a rider in that protective mode, like super stiff, inconsistent horse, not making the first barrel. Ashley, if you're here, please speak for yourself. So I'm not sharing your story for you, but to being so with it, so present
Yeah.
in the flow. It was as if she was running in slow motion, and her horse, they squeaked that third a little tight, and she had the wherewithal in the moment to just put her hand out and set it back up, and she came out laughing.
On. I don't know if she can unmute, but Ashley is here. Can you unmute?
Well, and
Hello.
here's the thing. What happens is neurobiologically, we're in that freeze mode and we have to unthaw from freeze. We can't think our way through freeze. We have to unthaw. We have to move through the freeze response. And how you move through the freeze response is you have to, and we'll talk a little bit before we end. I want to talk about how we're going to use bilateral movement, especially for some things that for people like as some tough experiences begin to come up, like how we want to move through. But Ashley, I know Ashley's here and she can talk about that. But again, I just want to say we take that freeze response and we have to unthaw. We have to move through freeze. We can't think through it.
Come on. This is
On
so
logic.
good. Ashley Emmy, badass Emmy. Hey, we didn't plan this. Are you are you eating dinner right now?
No, we got kids are cleaning up their messes, so we're good.
All right.
Yeah, I went from severe alley issues like over the years to like just hot mess with nerves, feeling like I'm gonna vomit, blacking out during my runs, blowing past my first barrel, which you guys can, I mean, I have videos for you all to see the journey to now being able to be present, to know what I do when I feel the nerves coming up, how to help keep myself regulated, how to help keep my horse regulated. Are we perfect every time we run? No, that's like part of the game, right? But how far we come, especially like my first barrel was my biggest pain point. And so to just have my hand forward and not just, he's going to blow it, I got to pull, and just be able to have these consistent, beautiful first barrels. It's been awesome. And I will say real quick that that incident with Waco, Leanna was doing a clinic at Waco, a mini one, and I happened to be there. And she taught me a couple things and I worked on it. And that the result was that run where you guys, it was the first time I think ever in my life I've really felt present during a run where I could remember everything I was doing and talking to myself through the run. And that's where she talked about yesterday. I reached over and tried to pick up that third barrel feeling all salty. But yeah, it was awesome. So thank you, Leanna. Thank you, Kendra. It was cool.
Well, we're very proud, and just it's just a beautiful thing to see. Like, you and I have been friends for a long time, and to know your story personally and how much you beat yourself up and how low, like your lowest point was, that's nobody wants to be there. That's depressing.
Yeah.
And to see your turning point, like Waco was Tracy's turning point, to be able to celebrate with her in that, to see your turning point, and now, you know, things turning to the point where you got your WPRA car, your permit, so now you're going to WPRA rodeos, but also even not at the pro, it doesn't necessarily have to be a pro rodeo, but you're now competing in North Texas, where even a weekly, like a weekday jackpot, you're running against multiple NFR qualifiers and some of the best horses in the world, Pretty Derby, Open, and Pro level. And you have gone from like the back 40, the bottom of the 4D, to the 2D, now to the top of the 2D in North Texas, and you still have room to improve. Like, you are just knocking on the door of the toughest horses in the nation. That is so freaking awesome. And you're not jamming your horse with a bunch of calming aids and pain relief, and that it's just fascinating that we can learn to do this naturally for ourselves and our horses.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I'll just throw in there real quick is prior to Kendra and Stall High, and Kendra's helped. Listen, I bought my horse from Kendra in 2015, you guys. Since I bought that gelding, she has helped me since 2015. I was living in New Mexico. She was trying to help me being in Texas. I'd call her all the time over the phone crying. Like, I didn't buy the horse a hot mess. I created the hot mess. So I was injecting him. He was on the injection schedule after I bought him. He had tore suspensory. Like, we were disastrous. He was getting, like, he was injured. He had a year off from a tear. Now, you guys, he doesn't even need injected at all.
More special shoes. You were having to do special expensive
and special shoes. And I had all the special supplements and I had all the stuff. And all that's gone. He's got a clean, consistent bill of health. I think in the past 6 months, he was back at the vet just for a checkup, and that vet was cranking on him and rocking him, still sound. He's like, there's nothing to do with him here. I'm like, I love that. So it's just cool. It's all encompassing. And what I love is those of us have kind of been through the program or more advanced in it, is we can reach our hand behind and help the next one up. Yeah. And that one helps the next one up. And that's what we see happening throughout all of it.
Ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. We heal and grow in community. And that's relational neuroscience, is that you heal and grow in community. That's just not what we think. That's what Dr. Alan Fogel says. That's what Dr. Stephen Terrell says, Dan Siegel. We heal and grow through community. That's important. And so what I wanted to share was that as, difficult experiences come back up, one thing that we know is that we started this conversation about shame, right? When we experience shame, the brain actually translates that into physical threat. That's the parts of the brain that actually lights up. When we have an experience of shame, the brain actually takes it and receives it as a physical threat. And so what happens is that when we experience those waves, we're often taught to just stand and take it. It's the worst thing we can do is to stand still. So when we move bilaterally, right? So just left to right, front to back, it just that bilateral movement. And, notice I have my hands on my heart, or I can have my hand here on my chest and another on my belly here, just to make sure that I'm breathing in both places. That's often a good check to do during the day, is that if you place your hand on your chest and hand on your belly, if only your hand is moving on the top, guess what? We're hitting too close to our sympathetic nervous system. We got to receive breath in both areas. But as we move bilaterally side to side, we're going to make sure that information is going to start flowing across both sides of the hemisphere. So again, under stress, energy wants to pull back here, which is our protective mechanism. But when we start moving bilaterally, and see the rhythm here, both sides of my hemisphere right now are starting to light up. Then you add some breath to it. And if you hum, right, I'm not a good singer, but if you hum, what happens is that the brain scans of people singing show that all corners of the brain are activated. I mean, all parts of the brain are activated. When we sing or when we hum, we go beyond the place where language exists. It's able to reach a nonverbal implicit memories where trauma and stress are stored. And when we hum, we activate our vagus nerve, which makes us feel very connected to our bodies. And so that comeback clinic, yes, is comeback clinic about performance? Yeah, but it's also about come back home. That's back to your body. Because when we come back home to our body, we know that we can actually be responsive and we can handle any challenge that comes our way, whether we're on the horse or on the ground or in life. And that's what we're looking for, is we're looking to understand the pathway to come back to our bodies, to be present and grounded. And so when you go through these experiences, or you, for example, and I know we have to end here, one of the biggest things is that when you see a horse wreck, we're not in it, but we see it at a rodeo or we see it on TV, we need to be moving our bodies bilaterally and breathing through it. And then we need to soften our eyes, soften the jaw. And boy, all of a sudden, when you do that, you get movement right in through here. C1 and C2 starts activating. So what we're saying here is very important. If we receive something stressful into our bodies, guess what? We have to move it through. We can't just hold still and hold steady. We got to move it through.
Because it'll get stuck. So
It'll get, yeah, it's unresolved.
horse trainers, are you listening? We know what that fixed eye looks like in a horse. When they get wall-eyed, look out. There's the signal. So it's the same for us. When we're not aware that our eyes are stuck, I think that's such a brilliant point.
Oh, yeah.
So good. How many of y'all are like ready? I'm ready to like jump out of this chair. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this opportunity to change the way it's been done.
Yes.
See it, you can't unsee it, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Again, we're not calling anyone out, but we're calling everyone up to a higher level of understanding. It's not about anything being broken or anything being right versus wrong. We're going to get stuck. Like, we're not going to get stuck in the left brain. It is a journey to simply find out what's missing. Well, once you ask, then you open yourself up to receive. This is fun. Did y'all have fun tonight? Leanna, thank you. You are so
good.
Ashley and Tracy, thank you for sharing your stories.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch the horse work again.
Yes.
One lucky person this week is going to be awarded based off of your horse work. So click that link. If you didn't get it, text the hotline and ask for it. One of our advisors will make sure you have that horse work link if you want to participate. Text 940-291-9090. You can text any question. If you want to talk to our team of advisors, it's free. You can get professional help with your particular horse for free. Text the hotline. Ask for the horse work link. Someone will win a free scholarship to our 21 Days of Attunement course, where you're going to start to learn how to move your hips differently and how to regulate your horse's emotions and regulate your own before and during a ride or a competition. We are going to spell it out for you. It's in this beautiful digital clinic library. You can start watching immediately, and live coaching calls start next Tuesday. I will share more about it this week as we go along, but this was just a phenomenal day 2. I'm very proud of everyone for being here. We still have 88 people on the call. Y'all, we had over 1,200 views. Did y'all see that? Like,
That's
our
awesome.
live yesterday that was on the Stall High Facebook page, I think I checked it at 5 p.m. today, had over 1,200 views. We're getting their attention. They're going to see the change in your horse, and they're like Tracy called Wendy. How'd you do it? What are you doing different? It's at Stall High. Do your horse work, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 3 of the Comeback Clinic.
Good night, y'all. Thanks.
Good night.